Ladies and gentlemen of our Luka Nation community, one of the fastest growing communities on Instagram. And I don't think that we're going to be able to cover all of the topics we need to cover today with our current guest. You guys are in for a treat. I highly, highly, highly recommend listening to the end because we're going to cover everything from how Spinotron started in the hobby, his collection, which spans so many different categories. You know, this man has collected a whole Prism Gold set from 2012. He has autographs. He's into NFTs. This episode is you can't miss episode, and I'm really excited to bring it to you guys. So, without further ado, we have the celebrity guest. We have someone who Panini America reposts just about every single thing Spinotron creates on Instagram. So, without further ado, Spin, welcome to the Lukas, Tigers, and Bronze podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
Okay, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, those three guys are like the name in the title are pretty good. It was those a little bit of Brown maybe.
Tell us. So I know you live in Europe now, which is interesting, and I'm sure there's a whole backstory to that. But how did you get started in the collecting space? Right.
Yeah, I think I had a very old encounter with hobby back in '90s. I saw ads on the magazine. So there's this hobby store. I was in China at that time. It's fairly far away from my home city, so I have to go there like once every 3 or 4 months. And while I was there, I opened like maybe 3 or 4 packs maximum every time. So, but I was able to sample through all the '90s classical releases. So, although I didn't pull like so many crazy stuff, but it left a huge impression on me. And I was away for like maybe a decade. And I maybe back in 2009 or so, I was chasing a comic book, hop on eBay, and suddenly remember like there's this Kobe cards. I was curious to see how it does then. So I started search and yeah, the rest is history. Basically, I couldn't stop. So it's it's been a journey like for maybe 12 to 13 years. Yeah.
That's cool, right? Because we talk about nostalgia, right? We talk about like, hey, what brings people back? And, you know, I mean, how long was the trek for you to go to that card store? Take like an hour to get there? The one back in the 90s took a little while to get there, right? So here you are, a kid, right?
Yeah.
You're like, hell with it. I got to save my money up. I'm going to save it up for 3-4 months. Take that travel, however, bus, train, however you get in there, just to buy 3 or 4 packs. And 13, 14 years later, you're on eBay and you're like, it's pulling me back in, right? I got to check on those Kobe cards that I used to be searching for in those packs in '96. It's awesome, right? That's what I think that's what draws a lot of people into this hobby.
Right. Yeah, it was like 5,000 kilometers away. So it's that's 500 kilometers. Sorry, 500.
It's still pretty far, but 5,000 would have been a heck of a trip. That's pretty awesome. But still, I mean, I had a card store around the corner from me, which was great. And you are driving. You're taking the trek to go and do it. It's pretty awesome. And '09, what a good time to get back to the hobby, right? Talking about some fun stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
So when you're on eBay and you're moving away from your comics and you're looking at Kobe, what's the first thing you remember buying? What's the first thing you remember looking for? Did you jump into '09? Did you go back into the '90s stuff? What'd you do?
Yeah, because I remember on the back magazine there was this Kobe Chrome rookie, right? That was the first thing I bought, like a BGS 10. So I was always back then I was chasing the highest grade of the Kobe rookies, just like every new collector these days tend to do, like searching the highest grade. And then I think the first one I won actually is a credential. It's not credential. It's like the EX rookie, which is the base version of the credential.
Beautiful card.
Yeah, that was very condition sensitive and crazy design. Yeah, and also ushered the credential era in the skybox. But I quickly moved on from rookie cards in top grades onto something like those classical '90s super rare releases. Those were my focus for quite a few years at the beginning of collecting.
Which ones?
like those PMGs,
The PMGs.
or credentials. Yeah, those are my favorites.
You have any
Mind if I
PMGs
ask?
left? You got any PMGs now?
Yeah, I have one. I can show you if you want.
Just tell me which one you got, because that way I can be jealous, and I'll shut up. I'll fall on the floor and let Andrew do the rest.
Okay, I can show you like a by.
I would love to see it.
Yeah, I have some ready. Sorry, I should have been more organized, but
No. This is fun. We are the least organized podcast in the world. Look at that.
This one.
That's beautiful.
So it's the Jam Master. It's the 1 of 1. The second year of the PMG release. Yeah.
Wow, that's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Has a bunch of letters saying it's 1 of 1. Yeah.
1 of 1. Well,
I'm curious. If someone was to ask you, Spin, what's your collecting philosophy? What would you say to them? Because your collection spans so many different corners of the hobby. I'm curious. What's your philosophy?
Philosophy? Yeah. So I think as I started at the very beginning, because I also, although I had a contact with the hobby in the 90s, but I was very much like a newbie, right? So I have to read around. At that time, there was 2 hobby forums, Hobby Kings and Blowouts. So I basically read every post, basically all the major discussions on what's the classical, which make the sets so great, and what's the most favorite sets among player collectors. So after I know this, I form a kind of personal taste, which is would be my chase. So I define my goal basically. I was very lucky. I was able to get 2 Kobe credential now out of 8. I think it is one of the rarest Kobe card in 90s. So only 8 of them I was able to get 2, and the time I get my second was actually April 12th, like 10 years ago of yesterday. So that kind of, because I really like the card, the acetate feel on the one side, and very thick and refracting with the player contour, silhouette cut out, little bit of surface topography kind of feel, like there's a layer of color change. So I really like that set, and I don't know whether you guys are familiar with that set. It's has a crazy numbering system. So it's a set of 80 cards, and so if the card is, for example, is at the position 8, it's numbered out of 8. So on and so forth. So at the top of the list, it's super hard to get even find a copy anywhere. So that chase kind of defines what I want to do. So that's basically although I collect so much varieties, but that credential set chase was the main focus. And I structured my player collecting because at the end of the set, those players numbered out of 1 or 2 or 3, those are impossible to get. You have to be prepared for it. You have to collect that player well enough so that, one, you know where it is, and second, if the owner does not want to sell, you can offer very good trade for it. So I had a very good Garnet PC as well as the Grand Hill, just waiting for the out of 1, out of 2 to surface. Yeah, so basically that was basically the early part of my collecting, and I finished after 7 years or so. Yeah.
These cards are not cheap, right? So what's funding this? Are you selling blood? You selling drugs? Is this Yakuza money? What do we got going on here? Where are we come up with this stuff? Because I want to know. I can't afford any of these damn things.
Right. I think back then things are still pretty much, it's not definitely not candy store money, but still within reach. I was a kind of person that would be hesitant to like upgrade my glass. For example, I've been wearing this for like 5 or 6 years. But if some key cards show up, I would like very passionately try to chase it. If it's something.
By the way, I love that Spinotron. I love it because Andrew's always saying he's like, this guy, he's not afraid to drop, all this money on a card, but he won't even buy himself, good headphones for the podcast. I got the little wire, So I'm with you, man. I get it. That's your Grail, man. Which I mean, I got to do because I'm excited listening about this stuff because there's a lot of people out there who are listening like, I got lucky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was buying the stuff early, right? It's not luck, right? There was strategy, there was collection on this. Even though these things were affordable, you were smart enough to realize that to get the Garnet, to get the Grand Hill, to get those from the collectors, that it wasn't just going to be about money. It was about strategy, right? So you had to go and buy other Garnets, whether it was a Skybox Premium Ruby, right? Or whether it was, I can't even imagine what the Grant Hill card would be, whatever it is. But you built up a PC of those guys knowing that you would have to be an offer to the holder of the 1 of 1 or the 1 of 2, the Hill and the Garnet of your credentials cards. You have to offer them cash and some other Grail type card in order to pry the card you want out of their hands. So there's a lot of strategy. It's not just luck. I mean, this is smart, right? And it doesn't always work out. I need a Pokemon PSA 10 Zard, but I couldn't afford it, so I bought a 9, figuring maybe if it's between me and somebody else trying to get a 10 from someone, maybe my offer of cash and a 9 beats out someone else's offer of cash. It's the same type of thing. I love it. I mean, that's real cool stuff. So you're obviously still collecting now, and some of the cards you have are other people's Grails. What's your Grail card right now? What's the card you're hunting now? The number one, the top of the peak.
I think the reason I'm waiting to like discuss here is because I have
somebody else is looking for it. Somebody else is looking. You don't want
to. Because I have no hostage situation to be given. So I think I'm pretty much satisfied with everything.
Wow, nice.
So, but still, I like Immaculate a lot because it's kind of like the Panini's version of Exquisite, same designer, and I think it has the most well thought set compositions in Panini's all the products. And Kobe has this number piece acetate auto patch out of 8. It happened to be his last Immaculate auto patch because of the situation on like this tragedy. Before, all the number pieces kind of auto patch are out of 24, and this is 8 for the first time. And the design, like the action shot, was the 81 game, so it's very special. I was able to get 7 of the 8. So the 8th one would be the one of the key card.
Wow,
they're high on my list. That's the.
And you don't play nice, man. You don't leave any for anyone. Because I'm listening to this, I'm like, let me go try to find one of these. This sounds like a cool card. Maybe I'll mortgage my house. But no, I'm not going to find them because you already have 7 of 8, and the 8th one you're gonna hold somebody up at gunpoint. Make sure you get that one too, obviously.
Yeah, that one is actually with a good friend of mine who is a very passionate Kobe collector. So it's I'm happy with the 7 because Kobe been to finals 7 times, so that's cool with me already. So, but if something can be worked out, even great. Yeah, so it's like all 8 of them. It's almost impossible. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing stuff. So he doesn't have a Grail. There's sort of one, but his friend owns it. So he knows if it ever comes available, he's gonna get it anyway. Look at this guy. Who's better than you? What do you got, Andrew? I don't even know where to go.
Well, yeah, by the way, to follow up on what you just said, you mentioned that you try to get a PSA 10 of something, right? And maybe at the time the 10 is out of reach or it's not available simply on the market. I think or sometimes it's not slightly imperfect, not up to your standard, right? It's, for example, the patch of something is not as good as you want, or I think it's still, if the situation allows, it's still good to have one. Because the next time it comes around, it could be just another multiple of that. And also, you can always upgrade, right? Sell this to fund the other and so on. A lot of things to play with.
Yep. And you're 100% right.
Waiting for the perfect thing to show up. It's gonna be.
You're 100% right. When I passed on the card I wanted, was it was like 70,000, and now it's like 400,000. So yeah, it's it's what happens. It's just what happens.
Okay, you are at the complete magnitude of mine. Okay.
Spin, what do you think about this? So right now, with the new prices, with the exponential increase in some of the prices of cards, it's really hard for the little guy to come in and build up his collection, build up his bankroll the way you started in the 90s and did. I'm not saying that that's true. That's what people are saying. What advice would you have for someone just starting out in the hobby?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think although all the visible big like white whale cards are super expensive right now, right? But I think still there are very good cards with a ton of historical significance of the top players, still very much affordable. You just have to find the perfect opportunity and know enough about it so you know what it is when it shows up. So the hope is not lost. It's not like there's no chance whatsoever. Yeah, I think there's still a lot of good deals to be had. You have to learn a little bit about various. I think it's good to know what's the first of various concepts, like first jersey card, first jersey auto, and first of, for example, the player won a championship on that year and the best card and so on and so forth. So there are various angles to the chase. Obviously, there's always be the universally agreed the best card of that gonna be very coveted. It's that's could be tough, but for me, I think it's impossible for me to go out there to buy the $1 million Kobe Black Label rookie, right? It's just not possible. But I'm still able to pick up very nice cards. For example, I got Tom Brady Prism Black in the first year, which is the first ever Prism. But it's not the base 1/1. The base 1/1 might be $1 million right now. But I got the insert. Only there's a tooth base and insert. There's no more. And it's not top grade. It's not PSA 10, but still very nice. It's around 10K. So I would say it's a very good deal and within reach by a lot of people, right? It's still not a trivial amount of money, but you would think that this thing cannot be had, but actually it's things like this are all over the place. Yeah, you can just grab them. It's important to I think it's important to know the cards a little bit before you invest or jump in, and also do not listen too much on the various advices, especially data analysis, because some of things can be post-addiction, right? You see how it's going and try to fit a narrative, and also it changes very quickly, right? Upwards trajectory could just drop, and also there could be other because so few sales of these rare cards, and each auction could be various different factors. It could be someone has to trade some cards, so he's willing to go very hard on this card to trade the other card he has to have or something. And once this is done, such a situation is no longer there. Or there's a ton of it's impossible to predict market.
So I have a question for you, Spin, right? So it's going to take it in a different direction, but it kind of piggybacks on everybody has their own narrative, everybody has their own little data analysis. Mm-hmm. I may not get a chance to talk to somebody for a long time who knows more about Panini basketball cards, Panini football opinion than you. You're basically like Panini's poster child. You say something, they post it, right? So it's, obviously you've been doing Panini stuff for a long time. You know the Prism brand, the whole deal, right? I love 2012 Prism. I talk about it all the time. I love Prism. I think Prism is awesome. I think it is the, it's the bellwether set. There are a lot of people out there talking about the narrative is this, right? It's at some point in time, Select is going to pass Prism. right?
Okay.
And what that means, I don't know. Whether that means it's going to be the card that people collect, it's going to be the go-to rookie card, it's going to be the one that is better, it's going to be more expensive. I don't know what Select's going to pass Prism means, but I'll just leave it out there for you. I'll say, do you think Select passes Prism? You think Prism is just like installed as like the go-to product? You think that Select might actually quote pass it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I heard some arguments favoring Select Prism a little bit, because I think it's at least for certain years it's rarer than Prism, right? Silver, Select Silver is rarer than Prism.
Yep.
But I'm not sure it's universally applied. I think Select, when it first came out in basketball, it was the first brand to introduce the 1-of-1 Prism Black. It's the Select. And I happen to have the Kobe one, but I didn't have others. And also, it's the first one to have RPA in a Prism type of technology. And right now, the Select features a huge patch window. Like you can get RPA of in Select with a huge patch. But in Prism is a very small square. But still, I think Prism is the universal. Yeah, it's the number one. The status is so like firm right now. It's almost like much better than the like National Treasure RPA of the rarest kind, or even Logo Man. So a good Prism Gold in high grade might even outsell the Logo Man sometimes. So it's
how does that
argue like is it anywhere close? It's not possible.
Oh, Andrew's jumping out of his seat. He wants to know how that makes sense.
How does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe.
Well, Spin, if you were chasing a rookie now, right? If you were chasing like a rookie, let's say it's not Kobe. Let's say you like, I don't know, Cam Reddish. I'm gonna pick Andrew's favorite rookie, right? If you were gonna chase him, you would rather have a gold Prism BGS 10 over like a National Treasures limited RPA? Because it's rare? Because it's just like that's what people are after? That's what the demand is? Remember, it's supply and demand, man.
So that's at least that's what market says right now. Like, for example, let's put some example out there. Like, recently in the golden auction, there's this Jermoran, like immaculate Logo Man autograph 1-of-1, right? It sold a little over 200K. I think it's fairly reasonable, or on the low side compared to a very highly touted rookie, right? Especially the latest rookie class. But if you look at Donovan Mitchell's Prism offered in collectible with market price, I think 150K, which is very close to that, right? Donovan is having a great year, but I think his price is nowhere near Joe Moran, and also it's a 10 starting immaculate, so it's the price is 3/4, right? It's sometimes that's what market seems to dictate. I think one of the reasons is that refractor it's a very primitive like appeal, right? Like very shiny, and
everybody likes the shiny stuff, right? Well, like little cats with laser pointers. Chase the shiny stuff.
Also, some institutional money, they seem to, at least one of the fund manager probably likes also Nat likes those kind of things. So maybe that kind of, you have a too strong support, you have a very good market. Yeah.
Is it because of the apples to apples comparison where you have the liquidity of the base Prism cards, you have the liquidity of the numbered Prism cards, which allow you to derive a value for the really scarce ones, where when it comes to immaculate National Treasures, it's hard to price those cards out because there is no, what's the price of a 1-of-1?
Right.
Whatever someone's willing to pay, whatever I sell to Cage for example.
Yeah, I think the 1-of-1. Yeah, I think the example I gave also a little bit misleading, because one is an open auction, which is buried very low towards the end of the of an auction batch, which ends at the same time, right? So that might affect the price a little bit. On the other, it's a fractional offering, which is easy to fill because even the price might be, in certain cases, a little bit inflated. People are still, it's kind of like a group break or RAS, right? Everybody just chip a little bit to a tiny piece of pie. So different format may make this comparison a little bit skewed.
Yep, that's fair. That's fair.
You say that the Prism is kind of like currency right now, right? You like kind of stock, Prism, silver, PSA 10, something like that. If they are like going up and down so drastically and sometimes shoot up like crazy, the Prism Gold, which is the ultimate version of it, will definitely get dragged along, right? I think.
So you've been in this for quite some time. The last 15 years or so, last 13 years or so. You've seen the ups, the downs. You've seen the hobby, kind of grow. You've seen, different brands, different releases come in, and obviously you have to see that there's more stuff being produced now, significantly more stuff being produced now than there was, when you came back into it, when you were collecting your 2012 Prism cards and whatnot. For our folks out there who are listening and who maybe just got in the last year or two, right? We don't want them to, lose faith in the hobby, right? So obviously, when there were a couple brands out there, when there were a couple things and the prices were less money, it was easier to grab the GOATs and grab the good cards of the GOATs. What would you tell somebody who's listening to this now, who's just in collecting? They have a bankroll, they have money to invest. Where would you steer them for today's modern collections? Are there bargains out there? Where would you maybe steer them away from? Would you tell them to stay away from these like weird things that don't have a provenance, right? They don't have a history. Like, don't buy Clearly Donruss, which is the brand I seem to shit on all the time. I apologize, but stay away from these like Hoops Premium or whatever it is, and just stick with a certain thing. Pick a guy and stick with a guy. I mean, like, what's your advice? Because I'm gonna take it because you have a significant history with the brands. With basketball specifically, but you've seen a lot of what's come from what's been successful over the last decade of Panini. So I'd love to hear this answer.
Right. It's hard to say, like, how to summarize everything briefly, but I think Panini is doing a good job of protecting certain concept, right? I think at the early on stage, they might overuse certain concept when they are very hot. Like, for example, in basketball, like Team USA concept was really hot. So they use everywhere, and which makes the demand like go down because first few times you really like it, then you see it all the time. That definitely doesn't help. But nowadays, in the past few years, I think they try to protect certain category of things. For example, certain star players, logo man auto, they don't get issued often. And also, they don't roll out different brand every year, like without continuity or something. So there's always a staple brand. It's good to just pick. I think each rookie class has a few very good guys, right? Maybe pick one is a little bit risky, maybe pick a few. And also cross sports. I think for football, for me, it's only quarterback. Basketball, maybe, for example, the top two, I think every year is universally great, right? Which is number one, it's personal preference.
Give me your top two from Zion, Ja, Luka, Trey. You have to pick only two.
Okay. Yeah, maybe Zion and Luka. Yeah.
Michael Porter Jr.
Significant cards of those guys. Yeah. Sorry.
Michael Porter Jr. investor, or doesn't make the cut of the top two?
Maybe not. To be honest, I haven't watched much of the basketball this year because they are broadcasted right in the middle of the night. It's impossible. But I do watch the news analysis a bit. Yeah. I think you have to. It's definitely you need to watch the game to see whether. I think if a player is gonna become the future franchise player, right? You have it will pass the eye test basically, and also You have to look at the situation whether the team is going anywhere, because I think the market is have a very short memory. After a few years, even though first few years, you get super prizes, a lot of collectors. For example, Wiggins or some other guys, John Wall used to be popular, and even Blake Griffin, his card used to be like 10K, now it's like a couple of $100. For the Natural Treasure, I mean, it's Tatum is some guy I collect. I think he's doing pretty well, but still, I think right now the team was not at least not playing at the level people are expecting them to play. If this continues for a few more years, I think, it's also could be risky. So you have to analyze deeply. But I think that the talent-wise, there are generational talents every year. At least worth investing. It's good for the hobby, because if it's a bust rookie class, then it's the whole year is gonna be wasted.
Spin, you also do NFTs, or in your profile it says not for sale, not for trade. Does that mean you don't trade your cards, or that you're an NFT investor? Because I saw you also own a Shaquille O'Neal blockchain card.
If you count that as NFT, then I definitely have a bunch. But I keep asking Panini, are these blockchain-based cards actually NFT or not? If not, can you convert them into NFT? Because I know NFT in arts are right hot right now, right? And a lot of drops and sold out quickly. So, but I also, I didn't deep dive in those scenarios, but I did observe in certain, they have several websites doing releases, right? In some of the websites, it's sold out pretty quickly, and sometimes it's the mint, give you 5 to 10 minutes. How many copies bought by the guys are the number of releases, right? And then afterwards, it's traded in secondary market. I think at least from a few examples I looked at, right after release, the price could be easily several multiple of it, right? And then after maybe just 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it comes down to the worst situation could be even 10% of the minted price, which is quite tragic, I think. So you still, I think in every market, there are super good stuff. Also, I know Park or Beeple that super safe, but there's so many people out there, so cannot be everything diamond. There's no way, right? Just like cards. Only if you look at so many products, only maybe less than 20 are can be defined as classic. All the rest of are basically forgettable.
Do you think of yourself, Spin, as a collector or an investor?
I always think myself as a collector, because sometimes the card is valued so much, it's easy just to try to liquidate, right? To turn it into some value. But I always never think that way. It's find it extremely hard. For example, if I have something fairly pricey I have to buy, I need to sell some stuff, and when I sell, I need to make some strategic decision. You have to sell something which gives you positive returns, right? You don't want to sell in the loss, and also you do not want to sell the best stuff. Even for the things I'm waiting to sell just because I'm acquiring a much better piece, even for those stuff, I feel it's not an easy sell for me. Because I remember the process of acquiring those, and what's the purpose of the card. Could be part of the pairing, or there's some reason for it to be in my collection. So it's not for a true investor. It's when you see a perfect opportunity to exit, right? You never think twice about it, and there's no emotion involved. That would be the perfect investor profile. But I would think myself as a collector, but I think at today's age, you have to be investment savvy. Like you cannot just, yeah.
So when do you sell,
player.
man? Do you ever sell?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have like a plan to sell? Do you say, hey, I bought this card at this, or are there cards that you will just never sell?
The key is to never sell, is what I'm learning. Hodl for life.
I guess, it's just die with it, right? Just be buried with it all, right? The person who dies with the most Kobe cards wins, clearly, is what I'm learning.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, okay.
Right. When I buy a card, I never think about the scenario where I could sell this or what's the condition that if it meets, I will sell this. It's not the process I'm thinking. But I know for certain very good investor, they always think, what would be the exit profile for this card? Like, who will be the future buyer? Like, if I buy this at 1 million, is there like going to be a 5 million buyer in the next 3 or 5 years? Something like this. Yeah. I think at today's level, you really need to have some investment, mindset to it somehow. Like, because
mind if I go with a slightly different direction? It will be a little dark for 2 seconds, and we'll switch it back to. So I went on. I like to do research. I like to see all the collections that our guests have, and you have amazing cards. I mean, guys, if you just go to spinotron.com, I think you'll never start browsing. You'll just be scrolling down because it's incredible. But I saw you have a few Deshaun Watson cards, right?
Yeah, I have. Actually, I bought one of the big ones recently before the broke out. Yeah.
And if it's okay, we always talk about all of our successes. We never talk about, things that don't go well and how to get out of those and how to, recoup. I mean, it wasn't just Deshaun Watson, Ray Rice. It happens a lot, How do you properly, decide when to hold the Deshaun Watson card, for example, someone who's dealing with some allegations against him, you don't know if it's going to get worse or get better. That card could go to zero. Do you just hold it and you see what happens? Do you cut your losses? How do you think about those types of plays, if you don't mind sharing?
Right. Because I think for the current player, right, there's always a risk of injury or certain scandal. Or in the current age, single sentence said wrong, it could be totally canceled, right? Somehow. So there are certain risks associated to the guys. I think no one can. People try to project. It's already tough enough to predict the injury factor. There's no way you can predict this kind of PR crisis or some disastrous thing like this. So when it happens, it's tough call because I think I actually read a little bit because I don't have an extensive Deshaun Watson collection, but I have 3 very good cards. I actually like him a lot because one of the iconic plays, like someone kicking his face while falling down, he made a crazy throw, which completes, and he's like called a magician because of lots of crazy stuff. So that's why I was drawn to him. I think I read a thread. I think first of all, the people has huge investment won't want to be part of the participation, saying I'm at a huge loss, right? But those are filtered out, and all the guys that left comments are saying I've made some sales before. I'm all positive, although I'm holding some, but everything goes zero. I'm still didn't lose money. That's basically the general tone. I think for me, I would definitely hold those cards. I think there's because
you hold through the scandal. You hold through.
I'll hold because American people has a very short memories, right? If he has a worse situation, but then wins a Super Bowl, that will cure it all. Like A-Rod has 3 times or 2 times scandal, but now he has a very good as an analyst and very good reputation. Very.
I don't even remember who are we doing an episode here? My memory is just terrible. But I have a question for you, right? And it's a reasonable one. It's a Kobe one, actually, believe it or not. Are there any cards that you think, wow, I got to sell this? I'll give you an example. Last night on eBay, the 2008 Topps Chrome Refractor PSA 10 of the Kobe and LeBron card, where they're on the same card together, where he's playing defense on him. That sold, and it sold. I think it went for like $18,000 or something like that, right? And that's about where they've been going for. I've seen them sell for 14, seen them sell for 20 recently, and I was actually thinking about buying one because I don't really have any nice Kobe or LeBron cards. I don't really love either one of them, to be honest. And I was like, yeah, maybe I'll just kill two birds with one stone and get both of them on one card. It's a cool one. I think the pop is under 70. It's like 60 something.
I don't like either of them, but I'll buy both on one card.
Right, just on one. You got to have them in your collection, right? So when I look at it, and so it's a long lead up to a question, which is my MO. So I look at it, and I also check like the recent sales history, and I go back about 18 months, right? And if you go back 12 months on that card, that's now $18,000, or in some instances 20. You go back just to last year, and it was $3,000. $2,500. You go back 2 years, and that card was readily being sold on eBay for $200, $300, and it's now $18,000, right? Do you take a look at stuff like that and say, maybe I start taking some of the money off the table here? Because how does something like that continue to grow? How does something like that maintain that value? It's amazing. I do this pretty often. I look out, let me buy that card. But when I look back 2 years, maybe I should never do this because I'm missing out on cards that'll probably be $50,000 next year because that's just what happens. But what's your thought process when you see something like that? And you're like, because you probably own that card. You probably owned it for $200 2 years ago, and now it's $18,000. Do you think like, wow, let me go make some money here?
Yeah. Right. I think that particular card is a super safe. I think many people like it, and But as you said, in general, like this is a general example. Like, of course, everything I think compared to values like 1 or 2 years ago, it could go up 5 to 10 times, right? So it's pretty usual to see like value like 2 or 3 years ago selling just like, as you said, maybe even 100th. For example, I sold a Harden Prism Gold, which is 300. At that time, I think I bought it around 100 or so.
Yeah.
But recently sold close to maybe, almost 50K, maybe 40 something K. Yeah.
Right. So think about multiple, 100 times or some craziness, right? It's insane. Yeah.
But I think because if you look at Harden has achieved and count all his top cards, I think the card is right up there. So I think the value won't shrink to that level. It might fluctuate or steadily increase. Yeah, I'm not sure about another such crazy multiplier in the near future. It depends on whether you guys can bring like super celebrity on board or athletes. If you can expanding the scope, definitely will increase the demand, right? Yeah, I think we are at a different market right now. You cannot go back to look at the prices. Because that was my earlier mental block also, because once a flipper, because I see the market, everything, I saw a flipper bought a card which is at that time is a Rodman credential. He bought it like 500 or 800. When he tried to resell, I was only willing to put in a bid of 2K because I cannot imagine myself to significantly overpay that. But I lost the auction, and to get it, I have to put so much effort, and I have to pay like 10K just to get one, like 3 years later or something. So yeah, sometimes you need to do some analysis and see where things originate, but do not get restricted by it in some sense. Yeah.
What line of work are you in, Spin? Professionally.
I'm kind of a researcher and also help a family sometimes. Yeah, it's kind of researcher mostly. So that's why I'm good at searching some cards and realize some patterns, look into history and stuff. Yeah.
I was gonna say that. I'm glad you went there because And maybe, I mean, it sounds like you've been a researcher for what, 20, 30 years, maybe your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's changed about today's world is research has changed. How you do research has changed, right? Because you mentioned be careful or don't listen to everybody and what they're saying because you might miss the boat. How do you do your research with so much information available?
Mm-hmm.
But also, you know this as a researcher, not all information is the same, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How, if you were teaching a research class, Harvard got you and said, we have this new industry called the sports card hobby collectibles. Teach people about research. How do you go about it? What are the 1, 2, 3 steps? Would you mind sharing a little about that? I think it could help a lot of people.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think that's basically the thing missing, basically to the newcomers, right? People never talk about how to get information or get pricing. I think you need to know a few basic websites like for example, like 130point.com. You can check the buy offer sold price. The website better acknowledge my promotion somehow. Yeah, and also, for example, for Panini cards, you can use their checklist, and also for the Beckett. I think I always use the Beckett website to see, like, for example, if I want to say, for example, if I want to sell a card, I want to say this is the Peyton Manning's first exquisite logo man. So I need to put in the keywords, and there's a list generated, and you check, and you can, from that data, you can characterize how good the card is. And so there are a bunch of websites like this you have to use daily. I think that's the basic thing. And also, right. And also you need to maybe have a couple of good friends to share discussion with, maybe from different camps, so you do not think always the same way. It's better to have a guy who always not on the same page, like always. You have to convince him, or it's better that way. And also,
can I share? Sorry to cut you off. I mean, the Real 27 guy, right? Adam is a great example of that. Adam thinks as unique as anybody in the game. I don't think there's anyone who thinks like Adam. He goes against the grain, so that's a good example of that. And go check out Adam's magazine. It's really cool. It's called The Basketball Card Fanatic. Right.
Great. Yeah, it's a nice magazine. And Adam,
you better do something for this promotion.
Okay.
You better acknowledge this promotion.
Yeah, and also maybe because my personal from the forum, I think people only look at the forum maybe on the current page, but there is a search function, right? You just search certain topic, all the historical threads came up, and for example, the only current active forum is blowout.com, like forum.com, and you search, and I think blowout is very like very active because the traffic is generated by chit chat, right? Sometimes a little bit flame war going on. You should be able to sift through all that. Just look at the certain key observation by guys. You can learn quite a lot from them. Yeah, I think also historically maybe people are already very skeptical about certain cards selling at a very, very laughable level at the current rate. But back then, people don't believe it. And it's good to have some perspective and so on. Yeah, I think basically I'm using the same kind of resource everybody can use. Yeah, you just have to keep using them. And maybe I'll try to make some posts to at least some of the ways I try to do research to help some guys. Yeah.
My favorite thing you said is about grab a couple friends out there who might not be thinking about it the same way as you. You know what I mean? It's not an echo chamber time, right? First of all, it's cool to have your friends because you get to show the 7 Kobe's and be like, ha ha. So that's number one, good thing to have those friends. But 2, I mean, maybe you're thinking about buying something and they're like, you're insane. Like, why would you ever do that? You know, like, why would you spend that much money? You could buy this, this, and this instead, or, you know, why would you do it? It's great to have that ability to kind of, you know, bounce those ideas off of somebody else. And anybody who's out there who says, I wish I had somebody, you know, Andrew has no friends, so he understands. But you know, if you're out there and you know, maybe you're in an area of the world where there's not a ton of people for you to bounce your card ideas off of, message us, send us a message. We'll get you in a you know, Luka Nation group where we'll have 25 other friends who you can bounce your card ideas off of. We'll try to put you in something like that. We'll get Spin in one of those too. He'll have your head spinning in a second. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll call it the Spin Group. We'll only talk about Kobe, only talk about cards that Spin needs. So we'll fill the group with other people who have one-on-one Kobe's, and Spin will make crazy offers to get them from you. It'll be a lot of fun. No, but seriously though, the community is an important part of the hobby. I know you have to love that, right? I mean, you have to love, you know, putting the pictures up of some of the Kobe stuff you have and the feedback you get of some of the crazy collections that you've built. So I know I do. I should show my cards off more often. It's cool, man. It's part of the fun. It's part of the cool. I mean, I don't have what you have, but nobody does.
Spin.
What's up, Andrew?
Do you ever go to shows? Because you're like this mythical creature in the hobby that like everyone's like loves your collection. I'm curious, do you ever go to shows in the States? Have you met a lot of your friends in person?
Right. I think maybe like, let's see, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I've been to nationals and actually met a bunch of guys. I post all the picture on Instagram. Like, yeah, I've been to the show 2 times. I think when the COVID situation is over, I think I would like to go again. Like, and these days, national is not the only big shows. There are many shows put forth by people, so a lot of opportunities to meet people or buy. Yeah.
I love it. So last question, we'll wrap with this. If someone were to ask you, you know, is the hobby, you know, in the beginning, in the middle, in the end, what do you think? that was
first inning or something. Okay.
We are in the pregame. We're in the warm-ups. Where do you think we are, Spin? Give people, you know, your kind of thesis on the hobby moving forward, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think it's to me, it's definitely a transformative year because before it was just a hobby, right? And nowadays, like my family and my wife, it's very impressed about like the collection I have, like the returns and everything. And also outside people also regarded this as something worth looking into. So this has never been the case before. So it's definitely going to a different level. But yeah, I also feel very optimistic about this thing. It's definitely not nowhere near the height yet because I think the cards, for example, has an intrinsic appeal, right? It's if you look at certain cards, you just drawn to it. No explanation needed, right? You don't need to like try to convince somebody this is a really nice one. And certain cards, because I know a dealer who is very good at flipping things, but there are a couple of cards he always kept like in his PC. So for certain good cards, it can turn investor into a true collector for certain cards, right? So those kind of quality, I think, yeah, it's impossible to just dismissively think it's now is the already we are at the top. I think it's nowhere near, and a lot of people are getting in, like from various different parts of the world, and yeah, it's definitely interesting. I also like the fact that many cards are valuable right now, right? And everybody almost have 1 or 2 of those. And also it's impossible for very few people to have a ton of them. So the game is wide open, it's quite fun, and a lot of opportunities, right? You can, if you have a valuable piece, what do you do with it? Do you want to keep, like the value keep growing or try to do something about it, like retire or something? Yeah, it's quite fun.
I just want to ask one thing before I close it. You mentioned people from other parts of the world are coming in. Traditionally, this has been a U.S. hobby. You know,
Right.
is Europe, is China, are other countries getting into this really?
Yeah, I think, yeah, a good point. I think, first of all, I think the hobby has a deep roots everywhere, and China and Germany and other, actually one of the deepest collector base. But I think, for example, in China, I think as far as I know, no one is willing to spend 6 figures readily. But there are so many crazy spenders in China, so there is a huge potential there, which can maybe add a decimal place if certain people jump in. So that's one of the reasons that we can be optimistic about the thing. Yeah.
But real quick, and I know we got to run. How do they grade cards? How do they shipping is so difficult for these? Do you think that eventually, PSA opens up, a grading company in Europe and in China? How, logistically speaking, it's a lot easier to be a collector in the US?
Right, it's definitely, but there is a certain shipping service like Ship My Cards who can help you to reroute and collect, because you buy some cards, raw cards in the US, you can grade there and have them returned to you or just managed and sold or something. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Spin, this has been a blast, man. I think what's cool from you is we get so many different type of personalities on the show. You to me strike me, kind of come off as just a true researcher. And I think if there's one thing our Luka Nation should take away is how research leads to returns. Research leads to the right buying decisions. And like you said, there's hope because this is just the beginning of what's going on. And if you do your research, you do your homework, you're in the forums, you have a close group of friends that you communicate with. If you use PSA, Beckett, and 130 Point to do your research, you could find some good deals. You could start seeing patterns and really capitalize. So I think that's a great piece of advice from one of the best researchers in the hobby there is.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's good summary.
Spin, you're the best. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
I enjoyed just looking at your page, man. So thank you for that. Thanks for putting that stuff out there. We appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, appreciate to have me. Yeah, I will tune in the future episodes. Okay, take care.